I got diagnosed with PTSD when I was 19 years old
Mm,
from an abusive relationship, and I was so embarrassed because I
mm,
was like, I didn't go to war. I didn't, but it's not. It's your brain. Your
mhm.
brains just react to things that hurt and things that are scary and things that are abusive and things that are emotionally way too big for a person to handle. Your brain reacts in the way it does. It doesn't know what you went through. It just knows that it's scared and that it's been hurt and damaged and moving forward.
This is the Green Beret, where warriors talk about the weight they've carried. Okay, well, welcome back to the Awake Green Beret podcast, friends. I am so happy that you're here today. We have a really special guest, somebody who's been just inspiring for me. Just real quickly, Anna Przy. And before we dive into a more full introduction, I'll just do a quick word from our sponsors. This is my book, From Green Beret to Shamanism, One Man's Journey to Heal. It's more geared towards the masculine. It's a story of my descent into my mental health struggles, my climb back out, and ultimately the lessons learned. So all proceeds go to charity. This one helps veterans find ceremonies to help deal with their mental illness and suicide ideation. The second book I'd like to highlight, and one that I feel might really resonate with your audience, is one that my wife and I co-authored called Larabelle and the Crazy Tree, a story for adolescents about finding and following your authenticity and not being diverted because of peer pressure. Anyway, today's guest, Anna Przy, online known as Anna Przy, is a content creator, storyteller, and comedian who's built a large community by blending honest conversation about mental health with humor, relatability, and real-life vulnerability. She uses her platform to demystify mental wellness, to break down stigmas around neurodiversity and self-worth, and challenge the hustle culture with a lighthearted and impactful voice. She's rooted in being real about the messy, overwhelming parts of life while encouraging others to find value and humor and self-acceptance in the struggle. So, again, so happy to have you. Anna, is there anything you'd like to add before we dive in?
Thank you so much for having me. No, I always like when people intro me because it's like a reminder that I'm a real person who exists and like that what I do is actually seen by people because it's such a strange thing being an internet person where you're not really sure if anybody's looking. Like,
Well, and I have to say, I don't know your demographics. I have to assume that they're mostly feminine, female. But, I stumbled across your work and your content, and I was hooked immediately. I think that there is really so much, and I'm going to get emotional, I'm realizing already. Um, there is just so much in the mental wellness space that is so hard for us, I think, sometimes to move through. And it seems so heavy, and it seems so rigid, and it seems dogmatic in ways. And when I discovered your content, I was just blown away because I was like, uh, uh, this is raw, authentic. This is real, and I just was hooked immediately.
yeah. And the other thing that is really important to me is that and like you're saying, like it all feels like so much to wade through. And when people make it feel so clinical and like this, these insurmountable things. And I'm like, I want to break it down to a digestible level where it's like, hey, like this, we just have to take care of ourselves. And it's not all or nothing all the time. It's not, we can't rush through it. It might, because sometimes it's going to take the rest of our lives. And I know how much I wouldn't want someone to tell me what to do, how much I don't, I don't want to go online and have someone say, like, this is what you have to do to get better or to heal from this. And it's just like, I try to put it out there in a way that's fun.
Hmm.
But at its core, it's like, some of my favorite comments are when people are like, I was laughing and then I started crying. And you're like, yeah, because people need permission to like exist as they are and heal at the pace they're healing at. And
Yeah.
not to feel guilty for everything, literally everything, all the time. I mean, guilt is one of my huge problems every day of my life. Just feeling guilty for taking up space and guilty for existing and guilty for not being able to get over things fast enough. It just letting people, I mean, I just want the world to slow down.
Yeah. One of the things before I launch into the first question, I'll just back to I guess, the gender topic. One of the reasons I'm so excited to introduce you to the masculine, or to maybe more of my following and demographic, which does tend to be more masculine, is that pressure, right? Like, there's so much pressure put on the masculine about the hustle culture, and like, this is how you have to do it. You have to grind. You have to go out there. You have to work. You have to work out 2 hours a day. You have to, all these things. And I think that really the predominant voice in men and masculine influencers, social media influencer, is this idea about the grind and the hustle. And I think it's all bullshit.
Yeah, and also, like, this just happened in the Winter Olympics. I saw somebody post and they said, "Why are all these men crying at the Winter Olympics?" And, like, I was so mad because, like, life's not already hard enough. Like, you're also not allowed to have emotions. You don't get to feel things deeply. Like, I just can't imagine feeling so stifled. And then on the other end, like, for a woman, it's like, you can have as many feelings as you want, but just know that they're silly. It's like, you can't
both
win
dangerous.
on either end. Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah, and I know that I'm still trying to get to the question, but these are great points. There was a really deep realization for me that I spent so much of my life, even, like, I know from an early age, I hate to keep using this example because I have so much love for my father, but I know I was raised in if you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about home. And so I spent a lot of time learning to suppress my emotions. And then I entered into the military. Then I entered into special operations within the military. So, yeah, there was, probably about 50 of my 56, going on 57 years spent, like, really not being connected to my emotion. And it was only through this recent journey that I've really began to learn how to express my emotions, but to give myself permission to feel them. And so I don't apologize for that anymore. I went to a movie a couple weeks ago with my wife, and I was the only one in the theater crying my eyes out. I couldn't stop. And I was so actually proud. I was so happy about that.
And how freeing is that? Like, and I think that's the other thing is, like, once you start giving yourself permission to, like, live the way that you subconsciously would like to live. Like, I would like to walk away from this thing that's hard. And it's like, okay, so do it. Like, I
Yeah.
would like, and I'm feeling sad. And it's like, but I don't want to cry because I don't want people to see me cry. And it's like, well, just try crying, see what happens. But I think that's kind of been the catalyst for everything I do is like, well, what if? Try
Mm.
it.
Well, that's the perfect segue. So question one I had for you was, what inspired you to begin to create content publicly about your mental health experiences or about your life experience?
I am still a very recovering workaholic because it's so ingrained in me because I was raised in this household where it was very like, you will graduate and you will go to college and you will get a business degree and you will work till the day you die and you will, like, this is what you do. You work really hard, and that's like, it wasn't like there was even any end goal. It was just like, this is just what you do. You just work hard. And I did all that. I worked for the same company for, 15 years. I bought the company in the end.
Wow.
Yeah, and I really became that person who, like, had no life, no identity. You're like, this is my job, this is my identity, this is my life, is my job. And then the pandemic came, and it was the first time I'd ever kind of had to sit and look at my life and say, "Oh no."
Wow.
Because I mean, my identity, like, the way that I put value on myself is like, how much money do I make? Like, that was to me how I thought I was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And to have it all gone, to lose my salary and we didn't lose our company, but, we had to lay everybody off and scale it back, and we lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I was home, and it was kind of like, after a few months, I looked around and I was like, I don't even know if I like my life. I don't know if I like this house. I don't know if I like any of it. I don't know
Mhm.
what and it was kind of that, it was that, and then going back. So finally we went back to work a year and a half later, and I kind of said, I can't get back in the box. Like I got out of the box for a year and a half, and I sat in the sun, and I got an
Mm.
inflatable pool in my yard, and I baked bread, and I played video games with my husband, and I just experienced what it was like to be home and be with myself. And yeah, when I tried to go back to work, I was like, I don't think I can. Like I was in all these boxes, and they all shattered when everything went away. And I tried to put them back together and get back in and be the person I was, and I couldn't do it. Like I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna stay late. I don't
Mhm.
wanna I don't wanna work 30 weekends a year." Like
Yeah.
I just it just and that was the first time I ever posted that went viral, and all I said was, "I don't wanna do things. I wanna do no things." And to me, that was, like, the most shameful thing I could say out loud. Was like, "I don't want to do it." Like,
Yeah.
I want to sit here and do nothing. It kinda broke my brain to see how many people were like, "Oh, me either." Like, I also don't wanna do stuff, like, I'm exhausted too. And then from there, it just got a little easier every time being like, "Oh my god, I don't think I have a passion. Like, I don't think I have desires. I don't know what I wanna do with my life." Like, and just being really open and honest about it, but then seeing how many people came back and were like, "Wait, me too?" And
Mhm.
you're like, are we all lost and exhausted and everybody's burnt out and everybody needs a break and everybody is, like, holding on by a thread? And it just was this, like, "Oh, hey, I think everything's made up." Like, I said, because I did everything the way I was supposed to, and I was miserable.
Mhm.
And now I'm not doing it that way, and I'm less miserable.
Yeah.
And I I always make the joke, but I'm like, "And I had to tell the others," like, "Hey," like, well, you're like, "Wait, did you know it doesn't have to be like this?" And, like, your value's not your productivity, and, like, oh my god.
Yeah, I love that, and that really resonates with me too. Because in a different way, not necessarily in business, but I too was raised in that sort of home where, college was expected and career and achievement, and I found my way into the military, and then I don't know that that came from my childhood per se, but the need to succeed did, and so I just kept going as far as I could with the military and becoming as, you know,
Yeah.
the highest levels of it. And when I got out, like you, I was like having an identity crisis. Like, now who am I? Now what do I do?
Yep.
So that really resonates with me. Thank you.
Yeah, if you take away, like, everything that you've built your life around, and then it's kind of like, "Okay, who are you now?" And it's like, "Oh, no."
Yeah, yeah, it
That
feels a little
is
naked, right? Like,
yeah, you're like,
uh-oh.
"That's terrifying."
Hmm.
And I remember I got online and I got a therapist because I was like, this is too much for me. And I said, kind of as a joke, right? I wasn't serious, but I was like, it would just be so much easier to walk away from all of this, like
Mm.
my job in this company and everything. And she just looked at me and she goes, what is the problem with doing the easier thing? And and I was like, no, well, that's not a real option. Like, I can't do that. And then it was kinda like, once the seed was planted, it was like, "Wait, could I? Could I not do this? Could I choose an easier life? Like, could I choose a more restful, like."
Wow. So it was like she was saying what you're saying to the rest of your followers in your community right now, which is giving the permission slip above your head right now. She was
Yeah.
like the first idea, like planting that seed about the permission slip.
Yeah, it was like, what would happen if you did the easier thing? And I was like, "Oh god, I might be happy.
Oh my God, God forbid, right?
I might start seeking validation in monetary value, and you never
Achievement
know."
and
Yeah.
grind and hustle. Yeah. Your tagline, one of your taglines, it's called manifesting. Look it up.
Yeah.
It became an iconic tagline. Can you walk us through that phrase, how it came, and yeah, why it resonates so powerfully?
It's 2 parts. One, because it was an accident when I said it. It literally I just, like, I had planned to go out there and say something, and then when I turned around, I looked dead at the camera, and I said, "It's called manifesting. Look it up." And I ran away, and I sent it to my cousin at the time because he was like I would send him my content before I posted it and be like, "What do you think?" And because I was still very nervous and still very seeking a lot of validation and still really seeking a lot of like people pleasing tendencies. Like, I don't want to post it if they're not going to love it, which I don't worry about anymore. But he goes, this is gonna do numbers, is what he said. And I was like, really? And then it did. And I was like, oh. And the funniest part was everyone was like, this isn't manifesting. This isn't how you do it. Like, why would you say this is manifesting? Look it up. And I said, why can't this be manifesting? Like that, like to me, it was an accident, but then it turned into like, no, why can't I do it my way?
Right.
Like, I want to speak stuff into existence. And that's kind of how it's been. Like, even saying that, like, it would be easier to walk away. And I said it out loud. And I'd never said that out loud before. But then it's there. Then it exists. And it's a real thing. Like, and I just think saying stuff out loud, speaking it into existence like that, like, it makes it a possibility. It makes it an option.
I 100% agree with you. I feel like that's another one of those kind of like the mental health game. The manifesting game is one of those that is so, again, almost dogmatic, and everybody has an opinion on it, and their opinion is right, and we're all trying to do it. In my mind, I have a simpler view of it. And my theory on manifesting is that we are all these electromagnetic beings, personas, right? Spirit and body and created from divine source. And we vibrate as such. And whatever our vibration is what we attract in. And I feel like manifestation is almost an automatic process. We just don't always know. Like, many people just don't know it.
Yeah. I mean, it is just, for me, it's like, yeah, because if you become the person that could happen to, it could happen to you. I don't know how to explain that. But the other thing for me is like everything in my life, everybody is so, you have to do it this way. This is the right way. And I think I'm also adding a little bit like, well, what if I want to do it a little bit different? Like, what if I don't, what if I just want to do it the way I want to do it? And same with like, I'm laughing because when you talk about like manifesting and anything woo woo, whatever, the moon behind me reminded me, but I do a segment in my show called The Moon Report. And I am not like a person who knows anything about astrology, but I do my own take on it every day. Like, I research it and I'm like, here's what I think, the moon's saying today or what. But it's just choosing to do your life in the way you want to do your life every step of the way, every inch of the way, like picking how you want to live your life.
And I think that brings us back to the sort of the running theme here of authenticity. Like, there is no right way. The right way is your way.
Yeah, the right way is the way you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're all where we are, period. And that's okay, because also it's a journey and we're not supposed to get to the destination. We're just supposed to be in the journey and enjoying it and living and being happy. And so,
I always say, what's the rush? Like, tell me what happens at the end. You die. So
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like, what's this hustle, this hurry is so odd. It doesn't fit the life frame of like, where are you rushing off to? It's not like we can really,
There is no,
I was going to say, it's not like we can retire anymore, but I'm sure that you can probably retire but the rest of us can't. So.
Well, yeah, there is that. I mean, I am fortunate to have a retirement, but I think I work harder at this than I did in the military.
Yeah, and there's that. And it's like, yeah, the reality is we're all going to be working for the rest of our lives at something. You might as well enjoy it. You might as well like what you're doing. Yeah.
True. Again, back to your follower base skews heavily female but spans many groups. What conversations have you had with your audience, and what has it taught you about the shared struggles across genders, identities, and generations?
I think the craziest part is that it's almost everybody. Like, I encounter very few people who would be like, this is unrelatable content. And I think that's wild. It's changed my entire life because watching people agree with things that I used to think were radical. Like, I'd say something and be like, "This is the craziest thing I've ever said out loud," and everyone's like, "No, me too. I'm also
Mm,
struggling with that." And you're like,
mm,
like, nobody wants to be doing this? That's crazy. Like, nobody wants to grind themselves into the ground realistically. Like, or when somebody says, like, "You just broke my brain." Like,
mm.
I think it's so hard to live your whole life that way and then hear a different point of view and then be like, "Wait, I'm on that wavelength too."
Yeah,
I just can't believe how much of the world it is and how little we talked about it for so long.
for so long, right.
Yeah.
Now, I know you brought up the woohoo. Do you feel that there is an awakening, even maybe not so much even a woohoo type of awakening, but just even like an awakening within our collective society about how the systems that we've been living in are broken, and that's what led us
Hope
here.
so.
Yeah.
I think it's real split down the middle, but I really hope the more people who are like, "Hey, this is unsustainable. This is a
Hmm.
made up thing that doesn't help us thrive at all." You know, things are collapsing in front of our eyes and you're like, "You still think this is the best way we should be doing this?"
Hmm.
Or
Or is there a better way?
yeah, or is there an easier, kinder, slower way? I think that's a big one for me too, is just like everything is so fast and everything is like pushing and grinding and get to the next level and it's just like, okay, but what if we just stayed here?
Yeah.
And the other thing about the systems, I mean, unfortunately, I don't have the answers. It's like everything in the everything in existence needs to be stripped down and rebuilt. I don't think there's, you know, and you can talk about it with literally anything, healthcare or education or it's everything. And I don't know how you approach that. So for me, I'm like, well, take a nap about it maybe, and then we'll
Hmm.
and then we'll regroup later. But maybe we wouldn't be in the situations that we're in if everybody was like prioritizing their mental health and not trying to prove themselves constantly.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that two quick follow-up thoughts to that. I loved what you said about sustainability. I have a really good friend, and they always say, what's not sustainable is not sustainable. I mean, it's such a obvious statement, you
Yeah, but
know?
it's good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like the first time they said it, I was like, huh. And, I had to sit with that for a second. I'm like, wow, okay, that, like, I really like that. And so I've kind of borrowed that a lot. The other thing, too, I don't know that we need to know how to strip all the systems down or tear them apart and create it. Because, again, back to that, what's not sustainable is not sustainable concept. I think that really what's going to happen is because you've said it, like you tapped into what is going on out there is this, it resonates with everybody. And I think everybody is feeling the weight of the world on their shoulders and suffering mental health issues and depression and economic and up against the grind and all that, to the point where I think that organically we're all about to tap out of those systems, so to speak, and just
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah,
break
something's gonna
organically.
give. Yeah,
Yeah.
something is gonna give, and I don't know when or how, but I guess, like, yeah, my thing is like, well, I can change my world. I can change my tiny quarter of the world. I
Yeah.
can, help as many people as I can help and hope that the world figures it out, but also we just have too much access to everything. I mean, it's good and it's bad, but it's so much
True.
for one nervous system to handle.
Yeah, good point. Let's talk again. Authenticity has been kind of a running theme for us. Let's talk about authenticity and how you navigate between your being real with your audience, but safeguarding your own boundaries in the world. Speaking of too much access, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. I always say, like, I'm a wildly open book. Like, you can have every deep, dark thought and feeling I've ever had, but you don't know anything about my life. Like,
Mm,
and I think, I don't know how I struck such a balance where people are like, I feel like I know you, but I know I don't. And I'm like, no, you know my core. You know the way that I feel and the way that I process and the things that I'm going through. And but not really. Like, you just know that I'm exhausted or you know that I'm burnt out or you know that I'm feeling very depressed or but you don't know why. Like, you don't know. And I think that's my balance, is like You can have every thought and feeling I've ever had in my life, and I'll share it with you, but I won't give you the backstory.
Yeah. It's interesting. Kind of what I hear coming through is that you're giving people access to the most raw and authentic parts of you.
Yeah, they have access to my heart, like, to my
Yeah.
brain and my heart, but they don't know where my husband and I had dinner last night.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that, like, I'm so happy to give you every feeling I have, but I keep all of my activities are my activities, really. I even on vacation, I don't make content on trips, like, there's
Mhm.
just little things, like, where I keep certain things for me.
Yeah. It's a perfect boundary. And I think that's important, an important concept to highlight is we need boundaries in life. We have to be
Yeah.
able to speak our boundaries. And then even more importantly, we have to be able to enforce them. I had a conversation with a friend the other day about a boundary, and they were asking for some advice. I said, listen, if you're going to put this boundary out there, before you say it, you need to sit with yourself and decide if you're willing to enforce it. Because if not, you're going to reinforce that you're not, that the boundary doesn't exist.
That it could be pushed, yeah, that you could change your mind. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so funny to think of all the boundaries in my life that I've set in the last probably 5 or 6 years that I almost didn't realize I was placing because I was so meticulous and methodical and calculated with it, to the point where at the end you're like, "Oh, I don't even think about saying no anymore because I know that they understand why I'm not coming." Like,
Hmm.
with my parents or my family or something, like with my mom, if I'm like, "I'm not gonna come to Thanksgiving," and she's just like, "Good for you. Like,
Yep.
take care of yourself."
Okay.
But that was, like, such a long, slow process of
Hmm.
putting myself out there, kind
Yeah.
of, and
Now,
what I was willing to accept.
would you say that you're much more boundaried now than you were when you were in the corporate world?
Yes, I have some. I had I had none. It was like I'd never said no in my life, right? And
Yeah.
I always say, though, it was very funny in that period when I went back to work before I left again, I said I delegated for the first time in my life because I didn't wanna be there anymore, and then maybe I delegated a little too hard.
Mhm.
I just started giving my job away, before I even left, I was like, "No, I'm out."
Take it. Take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. All right. Have you received messages from followers that surprised or deeply moved you, and any that you feel comfortable sharing with us?
Yes. Well, the hardest ones and the scariest ones
Hmm.
are the people who, tell me that I'm the reason they're alive, and you're like, "Well, I'm so happy you're here, obviously," but I think that's a lot of pressure,
Hmm.
and someone has told me that in real life too. She told me that she had a plan to take her own life, and then she opened Instagram and one of my videos came up, and she changed her mind, and you're like, "I'm so grateful, like, I'm so glad that I made that video and that it was there," but then there's the alternate, like, pressure of, like, what if I hadn't made it? But no, I get so many lovely messages. The ones that, like, really tickle me and make me happy are people who, like, I got offered a promotion and I didn't take it, and they're like, "Because I thought about it," and I was like, "No, I don't wanna work more or harder, I'm content where I am right now," because I try so hard to give you permission to, like, "Hey, like, you don't have to be moving forward. Like, you do as a person, but, like, your job is your job, and if you don't want to climb the ladder, you do not have to." Or they're like, "I finally walked away from a relationship that was horrible for me." It's just I love that I'm somehow in whatever this thing is I've created, I'm giving people permission to, like, live for themselves, which is all I want for everybody, is
To
to
live their
consider
best
them.
lives.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and to put consider yourself in your own life. I would say I wasn't important in my life before. I wasn't an important part of my life. I didn't value my needs, or if I was tired or if I was overwhelmed, like, it didn't matter. And now it does. And that's what I want for everybody.
I love that. I think that you've also been helpful for me too. Like I never ever, well, in many ways, I mean more specifically, but this specific example I wanted to share with you is like I never took a nap. I mean, first of all, I was at the
Yeah.
in the army, and like, when am I going
Yes.
to break away and take a nap? And now I love a nap.
Yeah.
In fact, there's another practice that I've instituted, which is I just call it playtime. And I have blocked off from noon until, the evening on Fridays. And, because people have access to my calendar, people can pop in there and schedule appointments and calls with me, but nobody can block or interrupt or step on that sacred time. And it's inner child work for me. And so what I do is because some of my work is around what Carl Jung would call disassociation, or in shamanic terms, we call soul loss. And when that soul part comes back, you have to make space for it at the age that it's at. So I will go and do things that were important to me as a child, like skipping stones or playing in a creek or taking naps or even eating chocolate pudding, which was a favorite for me as a child. But that Friday afternoon is my sacred playtime, and nobody gets to step on that.
I love that so much. That's so
Yeah.
good.
Thank
I
you.
play
Yeah.
video games like every day, so that's my
Nice. Nice. Do you have a favorite?
okay. I play The Sims.
Nice. I have tried that one and I can't seem to get into it. So,
I always can't decide if it's like good or bad that I'm like make these really productive people. Like, I don't know if it's like punishing a past self or something where I'm like make them like work really hard and be really tough. And I'm
that
like,
is
and
hilarious.
I'm just playing my game.
You're totally blowing off all the work so that you can create a virtual army that does all the work.
Yeah. I'm like, you're going to get so many promotions. You don't even know what to do with them.
That is hilarious. That is so funny. All right. What are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about mental health that your content aims to bust?
I mean, that it's like a failing, that it's like a moral failing, or that
Mm,
like it's just like no, it's just a thing. Like you get sick, your brain gets sick. I hate so much I mean, of course, going for a walk and taking vitamins and taking care of yourself is going to help your mental health but that's not all of it, like I am on antidepressants and I've been on antidepressants since I was 19 years old because I can go on as many walks as I want and I can eat every nutrient on planet Earth, and unfortunately my brain's not wired in the correct way where if I stop taking those meds I'm not going to want to jump off a bridge. I don't have that luxury, and it's just such a tough one when people are like you could fix it, and it's like yeah, no, I can
yeah,
fix it with medication and therapy and also
what
taking
I'm
care
doing.
of myself, but it's like but it's a combination of things. You're not going to fix me with your I don't know what the hot vitamin is right now or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's just like it's so hard when people are like that's why you're depressed, and it's like no, I'm depressed because my brain is sick.
Yeah, I wonder almost if it's some sort of like human condition that makes us want to project our beliefs onto other people about everything, including this. Like it just like to me what you're highlighting is again the concept that we're all on our own individual path, and my path is my path and it's not your path, and we might have some things that resonate, but as you're working through yours, please keep yours to yourself. I'm where I'm at and I'm working on me.
Yeah. It's always interesting to me that people will try to make a mean comment and they're like, "I think you're mentally ill." And I'm like, "Yeah,
That's the
that's the
point.
whole thing."
Welcome to the club.
I'm like, "Correct, my guy. That's exactly what's happening here." And I'm like, yeah, I'm putting it on display so other people don't feel so alone."
Yeah. What was that? There was that sort of country Southern comedian quite a few years ago. I'm thinking like maybe about 20 years ago. His tagline was, "Here's your sign." Like, you just figured it out.
You're
Here's your
like,
sign.
"Yes." Or when people are like, "Wait, is that what's wrong with me?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know what's wrong with you, but it very well could be depression."
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too that I could really like to emphasize in my audience, in my circles, is that we're all mentally, like you said, we all get physically ill at times, and we all have mental illnesses or emotional illnesses at times, and that is the human experience, and there is no shame in it. Like in the military, if I could just elaborate a little bit on this.
Yeah, of course.
In the military, there was a lot of stigma around PTSD early in the war, especially in the special operations community, because whether it was accurate or not, it later played out not to be accurate, but there was this really, really deeply ingrained belief that if you had mental illness issues, you would lose your security clearance. And if you lost your security clearance, you wouldn't be able to perform your job, which we all spent years in, going to selections and trainings and all these things just to get to do the job. And so, like to even utter the words, I have PTSD was so, so, so taboo. And I always like to point this man out. There was this command sergeant major. He was a senior enlisted advisor in the unit, the Joint Special Operations Command. So this is like the highest command that was commanding Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 and all these, these units. And the senior enlisted man in that unit, while I was there, I remember. And this was now, granted, this was like in 2011, I think. So it had already been in the war for 10 plus years. And I remember he called what was known in military terms an all hands, meaning everybody's there. Shut down all the offices, bring everybody into the hangar, no one's excused. And he called an all hands meeting, and he stood up at the mic and he said, "Hey, I'm struggling. I have mental health issues. I have PTSD. I'm seeking therapy." And it was mind blowing for me.
That's, I mean, incredible. But like, I can't imagine being in the military. I just want to tell you that I think that this is so cool what you're doing, and I think it's so important what you're doing, and I think what a different vibe and what a different mindset that you're sharing
Thank
and
you.
opening up to the world. Like, what a cool thing.
Yeah, it's been a trajectory to go from Green Beret for 20 years of being a Green Beret, 17 of those 20 at combat, and having I was for those in your audience who may be hearing my story for the first time, when I retired in 2018, we talked about leaving my identity behind and suffering that identity crisis. I was also, there were so many existential crises, but in addition to that, I was also, I had I'd been diagnosed with PTSD, resistant depression, alcoholism, opioid addiction, and suicidal ideation, and going through my third divorce. It was a really, really dark time. And so, yeah, like I appreciate what you're saying, because I do think that part of my work is to shine a light. What I really like this, I want to talk about the term for just a moment here. A lot of people will reference toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And I try to stay away from that term a lot, because I really don't like to buy into the idea that any human being is toxic. We're all where we are. But I do reference the lost masculine. And the reason I coined that phrase or used that phrase is because that's where I was. I was in this abyss that, 20 years of war and combat and PTSD and addiction had led me into the darkest places. And I just couldn't find a way out. And so I do feel like a little bit of what I'm trying to do, at least, is to shine a little bit of light into that abyss to help people find their way out, especially the masculine.
Think also, like, I just think it's very cool that you would have me on your podcast, because it's really validating for me as well, because I sometimes just feel guilty. I mean, I already mentioned that that's like a huge overarching thing in my life, is this massive guilt, but a lot of it is like, why are you like, ew. I got diagnosed with PTSD when I was 19 years old from an abusive relationship, and I was so embarrassed, because I was like, I didn't go to war. I didn't, but it's not, it's your brain. Your brains just react to things that hurt, and things that are scary, and things that are abusive, and things that are emotionally way too big for a person to handle. Your brain reacts in the way it does. It doesn't know what you went through. It just knows that it's scared and that it's been hurt and damaged and moving forward. But there is this disconnect for me, especially where I wouldn't think that I was good enough to have something to say to somebody with you do know what I mean? Like somebody
Mm.
who has gone through a whole life, who has gone through so much more than I could ever imagine experiencing.
Well, I really, again, I value so much of what you're saying, and highlights another point that I point out in my book is that PTSD is not linear and it's not uniform. I like to look at it like this way. You know, it. I live here in the Salt Lake Valley, and there's ski resorts just a few miles from our home here. And so, using a metaphor or an example of skiing, like you and I might be able to go down the same run, but if I were to have torn my ACL 10 years ago, right? And then I re-injure that. It's not about the run, right? Like we're
Yeah.
all built differently. We all have our own, we're all carrying our own injuries, our own problems. So none of this is linear. None of this is universal. It's all per person. And it's
Yes.
not there's no measuring stick to compare one another.
Yeah, and that like I mean, and that's I say all hurts are hurts, and I say it all the time, mostly because I need to hear it because I try
Hmm.
to invalidate my own hurts. Like, no, everybody else is hurting worse. Like, don't, and it's just like that's not how it works, though. That's not how it works in exist. Like for a person,
Hmm.
your brain is hurt, your feelings are hurt, you're physically hurt. Like it doesn't matter that somebody else was hurt differently or worse. And that's I think this is good for me as, as well to talk to you about just that reminder that like, yeah, it's all hurts. Hurts are hurts
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they have the effect that they have.
You make sorry, you make content that's equally humorous and healing. How do you find the balance between comedy and vulnerability, or is it the same?
I have always used comedy, especially because my feelings never felt safe in, growing up in the 80s and 90s and being in the household where it's like keep it to yourself. Don't make that my, like don't bring it here. Whatever it
Yeah.
is, it's like everything is fine. Everything is fine. And so it was the only way to ever get something across was to be like make it a joke. And I think what started as this thing that I use to protect myself in my life, always be laughing at yourself before somebody else could do it. Oh, it's like a protection measure. But then I think it's kind of reclaiming it as an adult and getting to be like, no, this is comedy and it's healing and this is me getting to be who I am and who I've always been and but get to do it in a way that matters and also because I do this live as well. It's like it's so good to get things off your it's like not to say it's manifesting, but, like, to get things out of your body, like, I think physically talking about things and, like, giving them, like, away like that and being like, "Here, let's make it be all of our problem now,
Yeah.
this thing that I wanna talk about." But lately, I actually it hasn't been as funny. My content has been a little bit more serious, and I think it's always just gonna vary with the season of life that I'm in or the season of life that the society's in, because lately, yeah, it hasn't quite been as funny to me. Yeah.
I'm actually a couple of thoughts on that. First of all, what I hear you saying is that growing up, your humor wasn't vulnerability. It was a protective mechanism, or the only way that you could navigate. And then it seems flipped now, where you're being your most vulnerable, but using a medium that basically were very ingrained in or enmeshed in because it's how you had to navigate life. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like using a skill a little differently. It's like
Yeah.
taking anything you learned in your life and bringing it into the next chapter.
And then to follow up what you said there, like where things have been a little less funny lately, I'm interested in your thoughts on this. But I've actually noticed with nearly everybody out there in the content creation space that like what's happening right now, and for those of you like listening to this a little later, we're recording this on the 25th of February 2026. So we're there's a lot of heavy things kind of occupying everybody's minds right now, but I've noticed it throughout the community really at large that people are kind of wrestling with how to grapple and how to I guess navigate this space. Is that your
Yeah, you're
observation?
like, I don't yeah, there's these days, you're like, well, people are getting murdered in the streets. Like, I don't really know how to write content today. And I think not being able to write content that day makes sense. And it just might be a season where it's like, survival is really important for me at the moment. But like,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. I want to make content and I know that, sometimes it's helpful but at the same time, it's like, everybody take care of yourself.
Well, but I think that like your own message is really appropriate right here for
Yeah.
you and for the rest of us, which is be yourself and be where you're at right now. And you don't have to fit into a mold. You have to just be present with it and do what's
Yeah.
best for your central nervous system.
That's my number. So people have asked, like, I don't have like a mantra. Maybe I do, but the number one thing, like when everything feels too hard, or like I'm just like I don't think I can do anything else. It's just all you have to be is here. Like when everything starts to feel like insurmountable, it's like no, but all you have to be is here.
Are
You're
you
here.
familiar with Ram Dass?
No.
I'll put it in a plug. I talk about Ram Dass a lot. His real name, well, his given name was Richard Alpert, and he was a Harvard professor that ended up going to India and studying over there, and he changed his name to Ram Dass. And he wrote a great book that I'll recommend for the audience. He wrote several, but the one that I'm really resonating with your comment is "Be Here Now," and it's a terrific book, and it's a lot of sketches and drawings and scribbles. It's not like standard print text. It's his writings, like actual handwritings, and it's a great book. So yeah,
Yeah.
Ram Dass, Be Here Now.
Yeah. I think that's like what it strips down to on days when it's like all crazy. It's like look down. It's like, are you here? Yeah. Okay, good. You did it.
Yeah. And that's another point, like what you talked about earlier. Like, where are we rushing to? There is no, like we're going to die someday. Like, there's no end. There's just the here and now. And if we can, I think that's another big part of us in terms of like regulating our central nervous systems is not getting carried away with, beating ourselves up over the past or
Mm.
getting too anxious about the future. If we can just like shut both of those off for a moment and concentrate with what's in front of us, it for me anyway, it eliminates a whole bunch of that anxiety and fear that I wrestle with.
Yeah. All you have from the past is whatever you have. Like there you can't change it. You can't do anything with it except for take it into the future knowing like, okay, I did all of that stuff. And then that's it. You just have that knowledge and you keep going.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you take the lessons and you move on. Okay, I think we've already talked about this a little bit in many ways, but I'll ask it anyway. How do you manage your own mental health and well-being while also being a public voice for others' wellness?
At the same time,
Mm-hmm.
the content that I create is for me. It is written at myself generally because it is what I'm going through. And people will say, like, how did you know exactly how I was feeling? Because that's how I feel. I I just know that we are not as unique as we think we are when it comes to the way we're feeling. And whatever it is, I can say it out loud because somebody else is feeling it right then. Maybe not everybody, but somebody. But that's literally how I take care of my mental health is by writing about it and then performing it and, kind of sitting in that moment too, because I, there's a fuzzy. I can't create content like beforehand or like I don't batch content or anything because anything I'm making is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
going through right then. And so that's how like I have been managing my mental health really is in sitting down and writing like, what would you tell yourself if you weren't you?
Yeah. And now I don't want to ask too personal of a question here, but has that steered you away from the more traditional forms of mental health
No, I have
management?
a therapist and a psychologist. So, no, I I have all it's that same thing. It's like, why wouldn't I add everything that I could to my arsenal? It's the same with like even, the manifesting and following the moon, all these things. I'm like, why wouldn't I accept anything that could help? And they're like, "Do you like crystals?" And I'm like, "Sure. Could they help?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will I will add it all in."
I love that because I in the same way. I mean, sure, it was plant medicine that like really broke me open in terms of like my path and started my journey of mental health recovery. But I too maintain a therapist and I maintain a marriage counselor and all that stuff because why not? like
Because why not?
yeah,
Yeah, you're like, why wouldn't I want more tools in my toolbox?
and because it is such hard work, it is so overwhelming, and I think a lot of it is still very mystifying for most people.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm like, well, I'm going to go to the therapy and I'm going to take the meds. And I'm also going to wear my tourmaline bracelet and hope for the best.
Yep, where's mine? I don't have it on at the moment, but I have a little uh, yellow citrine right now. So
Yeah. That's a good one.
yeah, yeah. All right. You have to talk about your self-worth being unrelated to productivity. How do you personally break free from that mindset, and how can others start doing it as well?
Okay. I wrote this down because I wanted to say it earlier. So here's where you start. You are already everything that you need to be. Nothing else is required of you. Like, this is it. You're what comes next. That's it. It's like, I don't need to change anything about myself right now. I mean, I can and I will, but say you could sit there and you said, I'm everything that I need to be. Nothing else needs to happen right now. What do you want to do? Like,
Yeah.
what comes next? I don't know. It's such a strange concept to me to think like I don't need to do anything to be valuable. I don't need to do anything. There's not a list that I have to finish. There's not like I don't have to like go finish the dishes and then I'll be valuable. I don't have to finish the laundry and then I'll be valuable. It's like, no.
Of
It's
infinite
there.
value.
Now what? It's
Even
like
broken.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I mean. No matter what day it is, on the worst day of my life, I'm still already everything that I need to be right now. So what else do you want to do?
Yeah, and I again, like so much of this is resonating to me from that place of recovering overachiever and giving myself permission to, to goof off for the day, to finish early, to leave some things on my to-do list undone and walk away from it. And again, I want to credit you for a lot of that and for sharing that in my journey, and want to reinforce that with our audience today, saying like, listen, like it there is no end, there is no perfect, there is no amount of achievement that changes your self-worth. You are who you
No.
are. What's one hard truth you wish everyone would hear, especially those who are struggling to feel enough? I think we're kind of hitting it.
Yeah. I mean, number one, you already are. Ta-da!
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's no action required. You're inherently a valuable person. So, take all of that out of the equation when you're looking at your life. I don't need to add I don't need to add anything to be better. I'm here. Gosh, it's very hard. I don't know. I still struggle so much with the value thing and the value and the productivity and the guilt. And I I think you just work at it or recognize when it's happening. I even think I went on a huge tour in the summer. Summer? I don't know. Fall. And it was a success, right? I went to 16 theaters. I had over 100 people in every one. Like, it's crazy. That's crazy. That's an accomplishment. But I came home and I was really struggling. And I realized I was really struggling because I didn't make a lot of money. And I was like, Anna, it's so hard to untie all these little knots that we've been tied in our whole lives. But I think recognizing that you're doing it is very helpful. Like when I'll catch myself trying to do something to make my husband like me more. Like, I'll be like, I'm going to do the dishes and make the bed. And then and it's like, no, you can do those things if you want to. But like, he's going to love you or he's not. Like, these are these things that I have such a hard time untying.
Yeah. I had this conversation yesterday with somebody on the show, and we were talking about the love languages and how those, because I kind of hear that coming through, right, in terms of the relationship with your husband. And what he said to me really resonated. And he said that, if I'm like, I'll use me for example, if I'm speaking my wife's love language because I just love her and want her to feel safe and happy and heard and seen and validated, that's beautiful. But if I'm asking her to speak my language, then that's emotional hostage taking and transactional.
Yeah, it's catching I think it's a lot of catching myself doing things like that, or, like, why are you doing that? Like, are you buying someone that you don't even respect that much a gift because you're trying to prove that they should like you? Or, like, are you doing it because you want to give a gift? I think or something like
Yeah.
that. Like, in these moments, you're like, "Why are you doing that? Do you think that's gonna change your life? Is that gonna change your value if they like you?"
Right.
Like,
Right.
going out of your way to work really hard to make somebody like you who may never like you. And it's like, "Hey, you don't have to change. You don't have to do that."
Again, coming back to this concept of infinite worth. You are of infinite worth no matter what you do, no matter how they perceive it, no matter how broken you are, no matter how much you
Yeah.
need to sit and cry yourself, to sleep, you're still of infinite
Yes.
worth.
Yeah.
Has your creative lens broadened or shifted? And it sounds that it has with the tours, but has it broadened or shifted in the past couple of years? If so, how else other than just the touring and such?
The touring has, like it's one of those things I didn't think I would be good at or enjoy or want to pursue, and instead, it's just this incredibly healing thing. Is very different than the internet to get to see people in real life react to you. It's very different to get to that feedback is so different. The energy is so different. The actually being able to like feel what you're doing in a room is so mind-blowing to me. And I am not like a comfortable in front of speaking in front of people person. This is not like a thing that but once I did it, it was like, what a cool artistic thing that you just get so much out of. I thought I was getting a lot out of content creation in the internet, and then I did this, and you're like, wow,
Yeah.
there is like a whole world of energy that you could go pursue. But no, I think the things for me that are the most fulfilling right now are the things in my real life. Even, talking on podcasts like this, getting to meet people on these trips that I host, the internet is almost feeling sort of more like just like a part of it, like one of the tools in this universe that I'm creating, but
Hmm.
the in real life stuff is really where it feels real. And I lost sight of the real world a little at some
Hmm.
point when I was online constantly and just like too chronically online, and it has really helped kind of balance the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, that makes complete sense. And I imagine that to me, it feels like what you're saying is that in some respects, the online stuff has a bit of a safety net to it, whereas when you're on stage, there's no safety net. And that to me sounds very cathartic.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, also then I'm like, well, maybe I'm an adrenaline junkie and I don't know it, but no, I don't think so. I think I really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's actually one of my secret fantasies is to do some stand up someday. I've always held that intention. I don't think that my military career lended itself to it at the time. Now
Yeah.
I'd feel more comfortable doing it. I just haven't found the opportunity. So maybe I'm speaking that into existence.
I think it's very healing to laugh about your life in a way like that where you're like, this is very silly. Let's giggle about it. And you're like, what an absurd thing that we just all get to laugh about, like how crazy it was to live our lives the way we lived them,
Oh,
or,
right.
just joking about the, like that same thing, the like your household where you keep it to yourself, you don't talk about anything and everything's like, you're like, that is so good for your nervous system.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
people are laughing and you're like, it's not that funny, but it's so funny.
Yeah, it's funny in a way. It's funny in the right way. It's us laughing together through shared trauma in a way and realizing that it's not the end of the world versus, being laughed at and being
And you're
made
not
fun of.
alone. Yeah, that you're like,
Yeah.
I'm in a room full of people and most of them are relating to what I'm saying. You're like, how validating and how comforting to know that, your existence was how you imagined it. Like that, even though it felt wrong and off, and it was like, okay, good. We all thought it was wrong and off. Like, thank God.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. What would you tell your younger self, the self before you began sharing your journey?
Well, that's my least favorite question, but everybody asks it because I used to just be like, I don't know. I would punch her in the face because she wouldn't have wanted to listen. She had no interest in changing her life. You know, she was very content to be a ladder climber and to be everything that her parents wanted her to be. And she didn't really want to think things through. I didn't want to think about it. I was like, no, I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to do. It's easier this way. Because it is. It's really hard to actually have to think and feel and process your
Process.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but if she would have listened, she wouldn't have. But if she would have, it's that it can change and it will.
Hmm.
Like everything felt so concrete and final. Like this is the degree I'm going to get, and I can't change my mind. And it's just like you can change your mind every single day. Like if that decision you made isn't going well, you can make a new one. Like you are not stuck. It can change. Any of it can change. It can all change, because I think I just never thought change was a choice. Like, I never thought my life changing in any way was an option. It was like, it has to stay in this one single track that I've laid out for myself, and it's like, no.
Right. And I love that because I feel like you're also reinforcing what we said earlier too about some of your followers, your followers circling back and saying, "Hey, you know what? I didn't take the promotion or I left my job and I did these things and I put myself ahead of this, this thing that I was locked
Yeah.
into."
Somebody did ask me once, and they were like, I know you're always talking about, like, taking the easier path and, like, making your life easier, blah, blah, blah. And they said, but what if the thing that I want is the promotion? And I was like, I don't think you've been hearing me.
Yeah.
What I want is for you to have the life you want. That's
Right.
all I want. I want you to do it because it's what you want. And if that's what you want, then that's amazing. I just don't want you to do it because you think it's what you should want.
Right. Or what the world thinks you should want.
Yeah, I'm like, if you want to, run that company, like, do it. That's amazing. What a cool thing to want. I'm just saying that if deep down you don't want it and you just are doing it because I should want this promotion. I should want to be the boss. That's what people want. And it's like, is it what you want?
And or is it bringing you happiness? And if being, and I will say that, there was some overachievement that did bring me some joy and some
Yeah,
satisfaction.
of course.
And I did love, I mean, I'll say this 1,000 times. I loved the Green Berets. I loved the organization. I loved the caliber of the men that I served with. But there was
Yeah.
also a heavy cost to it as well.
Yeah. It isn't. No, it's not about not doing a thing because I said not to do it. I don't care
Mhm.
what you do. I
Yeah.
just want you to consider yourself in the decisions you're making, because
Mhm.
I don't want you to lose sight of you.
First and foremost.
Yeah. You should be a part of your own life. Can you imagine?
Did, this is going down a tangent here, but is your mother, I mean, they had this plan for you. Do they look back, or even your spouse, and if this is too personal, we'll edit it out, but like, are they super supportive now, or how does that resonate?
Yes, they are. It is crazy, but my mom has said, like, my show, like, or her hearing me tell my life story has been very helpful for her, and she has said that she thinks all children should tell their story to their parents from their point of view,
Mm-hmm.
just because of how much it helped her to understand, like, what I know that most moms aren't going to be that way, but no, my parents have started therapy recently and are just so different. Like, all the best parts of them are still there, but now they're also, like, open to new ideas and change and all these things they never were before, which has been so lovely to see. And also that, like, it's never too late. I
Mm-hmm.
remember maybe 10 years ago, my mom and I were on a walk, and she said, it almost got so bad that I called a therapist. And I was like, that it doesn't have to get bad to call a therapist. You could just go to therapy when it's going good. But, it's so funny to think of, like, that was her mindset 10 years ago. And now she's, like, in therapy twice a week, trying to deconstruct this whole life of these
Mm.
rigid norms. And no, my husband is a saint. He has taken it all in stride. And a lot of the problem with it is on my end, where it's that guilt. It's that, like, I have just all of this deep guilt about everything I do all the time. I don't know. We're working on it.
Yeah.
But no, it's like I feel so guilty that I've made our entire lives about me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Anna, if I didn't wanna do it, I'd tell you."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Because he comes on tour and he's like, "If I didn't wanna be here, I wouldn't be here."
Yeah, I love that. There's three quick parallels there. The first is my spouse. Like the shamanic path was nothing that I planned. It was a a universe thing.
Yeah,
And my wife always jokes and says, "You pulled the rug out from underneath me, right?"
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I did that as well. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna quit my job
Create
and"
content.
yeah, "and be an internet lady," and it's just like, "What?"
Yeah. So I have a very supportive wife. I always tell her she could create a social media channel called Shaman Says What, kind of as in like when I go off and I get real human and I know. And she says she's afraid to because she doesn't want, she doesn't want to get me fired up. But I'm telling her like that would be gold, comedy gold.
That is so funny.
The other thing that you mentioned that really resonated with me was telling your story to your mother from your angle. And I will tell you that some of my favorite moments currently, or as an adult now, or with my children as adults, I should say, is
Mhm.
when they sit down and roast me. Like that is so funny. I have these memories of how I was, this great dad, did these things, and then
Yeah.
they come along and say, "Yeah, maybe let's see it from our perspective, Dad." And the three of those, I have three daughters, and the three daughters will like all gang up on me at once. And for me, it is so funny. I'm at a place now where I can hear it and hear it properly. And I find so much humor in
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we kinda they gave me kind of permission to do that too before I even did it. My mom was like, "You can tell people that I fucked you up." And I was like, "Well, you didn't. You had the information you had. You only have access to the information you have access to until you have access to more information." Like, you were doing the best you could with what you had to work with. You weren't intentionally hurting me. It just unfortunately all hurt.
Yeah. Well, and again, just like the other themes that we've been reinforcing, they were doing the best that they could with what they were
Yeah.
where they were. We all are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and the internet, wasn't there, and you're just like, "So what do you have access to?" You have access to your peers, and they're all in the same circular mindset of, and also, like, no matter how you couldn't avoid diet culture, and you couldn't avoid this strange misogynistic life, and yeah.
Business and achievement and all that.
Yeah, and my mom went so hard in the other direction because she felt so slighted, as a girl growing up in the 50s and 60s and went so hard in the other direction like I'm going to do everything and be a doctor and, run be a world-class marathoner and, take over the world because she was so mad, like she's like, "I wanna be a swimmer and there's no girls' swim team. Like, this is chaos." And then, took that and ran with it. But then, my life was like, "Do I have to also be very impressive? Because I don't know if I have it in me."
Yeah. The other thing that I want to share with the audience is I do a lot of advocacy work here in Utah to help change some of the laws around medicinal uses of psychedelics. And so I testify, and yesterday was another opportunity where I testified at the Senate subcommittee here in the state. And I always tell the story about my mother, because my mother and father had me arrested in 2018. That's how this whole thing started. When I came
My
back and
goodness.
yeah, I had the problems that I outlined earlier in
Yeah.
this. Yeah. So my ultimately what I tell people is, there was about a 49% or a 98% chance that I would never talk to my parents again when my dad made that decision.
Yeah.
49% that, well, sorry, I'm messing this up. What I mean to say is that there was a large chance that if he didn't do something, he'd never talk to me again because I was going to die. I was on a very dangerous path. Or there was a equally large chance that I would never talk to them again either because I would be so angry that he called the cops on me. And there was like
Yeah.
a little tiny sliver in the middle where it all worked out. And fortunately, we found that silver lining and that sliver and repaired those relationships. But I tell that story when I talk about the use of plant medicine, and like your mother, my mom, like she has this. I quote her where I say, "I don't know how psychedelics work, but I know that they gave me back the son, the one I sent off to the army." And she gives me permission to share that story too. And so, yeah, really grateful that here we are at this age and stage in life, yet still working with our parents to still grow together.
which is amazing. And I know that that's like so lucky because so many people don't have that. I have had friends who came up to me after my live show and said, if my mom heard me say any of those things about her, she would never speak to me again. And I'm like, I know, I'm really lucky. I get to do this and we all are growing together. I had a question though for you.
Yes,
Are you from Utah?
I am. Yeah, I grew up in Utah and then joined the military, was gone for about 30 years and then came back.
Yeah, so that's like a whole other added level of like
Yeah.
culture that is so conservative and strict and
Yep. Yep. I go into
different.
great detail in that in the book, and that's a whole nother level of, like you're saying, but it's actually really in line with what you're talking about from the beginning, because it wasn't just about achievement. There's this in Utah what we call this perfection culture. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
it's heavy, heavy, heavy. And you talked about guilt, but what we find here is used more commonly is the word shame. There's so much shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you got your Mormon shame and I got my Catholic guilt, we it's oh wow. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why I've always been deeply fascinated with Utah culture in general. I think mostly because it's one of my favorite places in the world. And also every time I'm there, I'm like,
Bizarro
ah,
land.
yeah, I'm like, you have like the most spectacular state, like from south to north, just the coolest like outdoor spaces and just the most incredible like, you know, volcanic structure, like just so crazy. And then you encounter people and you're like, ah,
Yep, 100%. I think I grew up in Utah, like sort of not impressed with the scenery because all I could see was gray sagebrush, and I didn't appreciate it until I came home.
that's so true though. Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, in near Salt Lake and stuff, it is a trip to go see all the mountains and things. But
Yeah, we didn't, as a kid, we weren't, we didn't do a lot of exploring of the terrain. But as I've come back, I've really grown to love the state. And thankfully, Utah's changing quite a bit. And the church is losing its grasp. And a lot, again, like we talked about systems crumbling, what's not
yeah,
sustainable is not sustainable. And the church has been so anti LGBTQ and other things that have just been so harmful that I think it's causing people to finally wake up and step away.
it is just such a like an interesting protected like place though where things are just a little behind.
Yeah, yeah, so much so. The liquor laws here for so long were really bizarre. Those have loosened up a little bit. And like I said, I'm now in advocacy space where we can begin to see, I mean, we have a medical cannabis program, and we're starting to advocate, and we'll see probably some psychedelic use getting enacted for medicinal purposes as well. So things are changing drastically or dramatically here.
Amazing.
Well, I'm going to give us a final closing segment and then over to you for any final comments after that. But Anna,
Okay.
again, before we close, I just want to ask you something bigger for the person listening right now, one who feels behind or overwhelmed, not enough, or quietly struggling. What would you say directly to them?
All of the things that make you feel that way are made up. They're made up systems. They're made up things that somebody said to you one day, and you get to make up your own. You get to make up your own standards. You get to make up your own rules. But the other thing is that you're already enough right where you are, whatever you're doing. There's no action required. There's nothing else you need to do to believe you're valuable except for get to believing it. And it's so I'm telling you to do nothing. I'm saying, "Hey, this is not a those are thoughts and they're not reality. The reality is that you're so inherently valuable and you go from there."
and you have permission to work on you and to do it however you see fit.
You have permission to be so important in your own life, to be such an important part of every decision you make. You don't lose sight of you. Yeah, because I think yeah, that's so hard to center yourself, but it's called your life for a reason because it's your life.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. If today's conversation resonated with you, send it to someone who needs to hear it. Leave a review or a comment. Like us, follow us. Again, one more quick plug: Larabelle and the Crazy Tree. This is primarily directed towards. I think I think this goes really well with what we are talking about today about being your authentic self from the get go. And so, if you know
I like
some.
Larabelle's hair.
Yeah, she's got a spoon. This actually,
Oh my
I'll
gosh.
pause. Yeah, she carries a spoon. That's part of the story. But this is actually inspired by my wife, who has a crazy tree that's about 30 feet in front of me just through this window. And there's about 300 random objects and ornaments in there that have no explanation or theme. And she calls it the crazy tree. Yeah, she curates it constantly. Like it's constantly moving and changing. And yeah, so pick this up if you know a young person who needs to hear a message about authenticity. And then finally, from Green Beret to Shamanism, One Man's Journey to Hill. This is primarily directed at, like I say, the lost masculine. People who are looking for a light out of the abyss. And so also for the females, the women in our audience today and your audience, again, if you know a man who might fit that description, that might be helpful for them. So again, my hat's off to you, my gratitude, my love, my thankfulness for you spending some time, especially when we're reminded to not be over achievers in this life. I greatly value your time today. Thank you for being on.
This was amazing. Thank you so much for having me.